All right, guys, what's up? Sorry for the slight delay. Had to set up a bunch of frames and a bunch of things on OBS, but we're here. Welcome to tonight's stream. As you can see, I got all the guys except Aaron. He couldn't make it, but we have a new face on the stream today. We have Taylor Crawford. Now,
hey there.
We do have another
Hi, Taylor.
Crawford,
Nice
so
to meet you.
I'm pretty sure you guys are gonna have a rivalry or something. I don't know.
Maybe.
Maybe. They're gonna compete for the title of best Crawford. All right, but that's for later. Okay, so let's just get into what we're talking about today. We are going to be talking about the BNR announcement that was dropped 4 hours ago. Now, I think all of us have kind of skimmed it. Maybe some of us have read through it. I personally kind of held back a bit. I was like, okay, I want to read things on stream. I want my first reaction to be on stream and all that. And well, we have the whole team, except Aaron, assembled to talk about this. We have Nathan and we're going to go to Tampa, but we still are going to Tampa, but we were going to rest tonight, but duty calls, right? All right, let's quickly chit chat about this and get into things. So, James White himself wrote this article, which I think is actually very significant because James White does not talk about these type of things very, very often, or doesn't write very many articles, and when he does, they're like really, really, really important and foundational pieces. Like the Fab 2.0 article, the powering down of Fab, I think maybe that was Brian, but both of them, whenever James White or Brian Gottlieb writes an article, it's a very big deal, right? I feel like I'm kind of tripping over my words a little bit. Let's pull it back a little. Let's kind of like make things a little bit more chill. So we haven't really planned what we're going to talk about. It's just going to be five guys just chit-chatting about Fab. All right. So that's, this is not going to be a super structured tier list chart guys video. This is just going to be us chit-chatting and that. How about let's do this? Give me the 30-second TikTok version of your reaction to this BNR. Let's start with Ed. Give me your 30 seconds.
Oh my god! Hey, oh man! All these book reading nerds are gonna have to get out of here. That's right. That's right.
Name 10
Go
books.
back to your Guardian roots. That's
Name
right.
10 books.
Guardians don't read. Okay, it is
ban
confirmed.
10 books. Ban 10 books.
Guardians don't read.
Guardians don't read. Confirmed. Okay. Yep. So Nathan, how about you?
That's it.
Decreased polarization, but not enough to where it makes the game boring. So I'm all for it.
Okay.
See, why you have to outdo me, man?
Yeah. Taylor, what are your thoughts?
As someone that usually strictly plays Art of War decks, I was a little hurt, but at the same time, I understand the ideology behind it, and I'm pretty happy with the outcome because a lot of the decks that I hate also got nerfed. So I was just like, I'll take it.
Okay. Will, what's your TLDR thoughts on this?
I was a no bans Andy running into this ban and restricted announcement. I was thinking certainly we're going to ban something small. We're not going to ban something great. We're not going to ban an original gangster like Art of War, and they did. And coming into the other half of this, I think I love it. I think that's my final reaction. I love this the shakeup.
I expected a traverse ban, but that's just me.
Well, we'll get into that. My TLDR is that Fab has returned to its roots, and we sometimes joke around and kind of meme on, flesh and blood as James White intended. That's a play on the Magic the Gathering meme. But this is really a return to the roots and, remembering who we are and what the game is about. Okay. Let's just kind of read the article. Now, I'm wondering, should I read it verbatim or should I summarize it? That is kind of the question.
Summarize it. Everybody's read it at this point.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I guess LSS has already nicely summarized it for us. we have this picture, right? So LSS talks about how they are going back. They're kind of refocusing on their design principles. One of the original design principles was starting full. So you start at max strength, you get weaker over time. That's very different than other games where you generally build up an engine. Reduce variance. I think the game was at a point where there's very, very little variance. That was kind of during the Oldhim meta because Crown of Seeds burned through the deck so fast. But we've seen, a little bit of an increase in variance recently. But I think this is still something that they're trying to balance properly. Every card counts. So this for those of you who have been around for a long time, you may remember Drone of Brutality. That was a card that when you blocked, it would go back into your deck. Or when you attacked with it would go back into your deck. And so that kind of broke the fundamentals. And I remember reading the BNR announcement for that, and they referenced this tenet. The final one is rewarding good decisions, not good luck. I mean, this is... I think this is why we... I just realized... I thought Will disappeared. I was going to... Us 5? No, us 4. This is why we, and I'm sure many of you guys in the chat like to play this game, is because this is one of those games that rewards good players. And I've told this story many times, but one of the first things that drew me to this game is this guy called Mortal kept winning and winning and winning and winning. And I was like, I have never seen that in other card games, such consistency. Right. So yeah, these 4 design principles are, what Flesh and Blood was and might have drifted from a little bit, but they are trying to say, okay, let's refocus here. Let's go back to, Flesh and Blood as James White intended. Okay, before we move on, do you guys have any thoughts on these 4 design principles? Should they add another one? And
So,
yeah,
I'll make a comment. So,
go ahead.
So when I first started the game, of course, I got in at like Tales of Aria. One of my buddies is like, Chain is really good, so you should play a deck that plays Ice to be able to combat Chain. Well, Ranger was kind of crap at the time, so I was like, okay, this Oldhim guy looks pretty cool. I'll go with him. So I started getting all the Guardian cards, story time with Ed. And I ended up going into Bravo because it was just cheaper at the time. I didn't want to invest to a game because I already invested thousands of dollars in playing Magic forever, right? So I went in that, but what drew me to the game is, like you were saying, this reduced variance where you're going to see every card, right? Or every card counts, I guess the third bullet. Mm-hmm. And that was the thing that I really loved about it, is like you could get to a second cycle, and we've kind of drifted away from that, at least in the more recent years of Fab, where it's like you generally will end a game before you even see your second cycle. And that is just one thing that I really, really miss. So hopefully we kind of transition to that, and this ban kind of helps you get to that. Now, when you ban draw cards, technically you get to your second cycle slower, but hey, maybe it slows the game down to where we can play at a reasonable pace and, have some good games, right?
Any other thoughts?
You were going to say something, Will?
No, this is exciting. This is such a huge shakeup in the foundation of so many different things. Like, so many people have to go back to the drawing board, and the decks that felt like they didn't stand a chance because Zen or even Katsu. That was something I loved that James touched on in that article about how Katsu. It stinks for Katsu fans out there in the world, but when Katsu was doing the crazy Art of War turn, it wasn't fun. It was like Katsu said, "Bam, here's 40." Like, okay, that's not my Flesh and Blood. Every time that happened to me, I was very thoroughly disappointed in the game. I didn't walk away from that learning much. So I
mean, it wasn't fun for you.
And it's fine for the player who's doing the overpowered thing, but it's like, I want more. I want you to earn that more. I don't want you to be like, hey, I got to block with these specific cards, and I found my double bonds turn with an Art of War. It's just, I don't know. I guess you earned it, but it felt so cheap from the other side of the table. And I'm excited to get back to a place where so many people have said it, but when I fell in love with this game, it was because it was this back and forth tug of war. I got to tell people it felt like I was playing Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter, like in the arcade, but with cards. And I don't know. I feel like this pulls us further closer to that than away from it.
Flesh and Blood is a fighting game, as that was a very famous video.
Yeah.
I kind of want to talk a little bit about the past. I'm the boomer here. I think I'm the oldest one, so I'm gonna be boomer Josh here. I'm gonna talk about back in my day, in Crucible of War, back when there was only 8 heroes. There were 2 matchups in particular that I think really illustrate this these design principles. Now, obviously, I'm going to talk from a warrior's perspective. So, the first one is Dorinthia versus Dash. Now, it does starting full is kind of interesting because Dash actually gets more powerful over time, but Dorinthia starts at the fullest, right? You give them the least amount of information because they don't know what's in your deck. They don't know, you still have you have all your equipment, you have bolters, you still have powerful cards in your deck and all that. And that matchup is actually one of the least variance-based matchups in the whole game, and really, really rewards playing tight fab. And often it comes down to like an Achilles break at turn 13 that gets an extra card from my hand, and that is actually the difference between winning and losing. And another matchup, I think, Ed, you may attest to this, is Bravo versus Dorinthia is also another matchup that is very classic fab. And, we both start with full armor. We both can, deny reprise. I can deny crush, etc. But eventually, you have D reacts, I have D reacts. But eventually we get to the second cycle, then the game changes. And there's not a lot of variance in that matchup because we both see our whole deck. We see our second cycle. Every card counts because it's like, okay, how many, Sink Belows does he have left? How many Staunches does he have left? How many Singing Steel Blades, etc. And that was one of the most skill testing matchups in the whole game. And, this is why I fell in love with the game, is because of matchups like Dorinthia versus Dash, Dorinthia versus Bravo really fulfilled all of these design principles. So, okay.
Real quick, I'd like to cut in. And that's Josh just touched on it pretty effectively, but that should be the biggest takeaway from this article. These design principles mattered when the game was built, and these design principles built a game that so many people fell in love with and had fun with. And we're just trying to get back to that and evolve to a point where they can keep building to fulfill that prior fucking design. And I think that's very important.
Okay, so with that framework in mind, we have so LSS, James White is like, all right, we've steered a little bit off course. Let's remember where we came from, where we're trying to go, and he readjusts the ship. Okay, so keep that in mind, these 4 design principles, because this is going to be very, very important going forward. Okay, so they talk a little bit, they talk in great detail, not just a little bit, they talk in great detail, and I think we can all agree that LSS does a very, very, very good job about explaining and being very transparent about their decisions, and huge shout outs to them. Okay, lots of text here, but it basically can be summarized as this, right? Okay, reflections and course correction. So James White asks, where do we go from here? Well, now Flesh and Blood has been around for 5 years. That's, in Osaka, we're going to have the 5th anniversary. And he says, into the next 5 years and beyond. So, now, Las Vegas was the very first calling in the US. And when I stepped into that room in 2021, I knew the game was going to succeed. When I experienced the Tales of Aria world premiere, I knew this game was going to succeed. And every single time I've heard James White speak just gives me a lot of confidence in the game. And so, we've been here for 5 years, and he's saying, okay, how do we proceed into the next 5 years and become, a healthy game that still remembers its principles? Okay, so Flesh and Blood design, development, and principles in 2025. So we have a bunch of game pieces, game principles. Now, I'll be honest. This the main thing is that these 3 kind of reference the previous principles, but the main part is paths to victory, right? So TLDR, current card strategies and synergies tend to slant it towards offensive strategies, right? And that goes way beyond 4 is greater than 3. It's like, okay, 2 cards gets 8, 3 cards gets 12, 4 cards can get 20, 5 cards could get 40, and with Kano and Zen, it could get into the 60s plus very, very easily, right? So that's the first path to victory is like, okay, offense is overwhelming, right? Now, they said that they want to disperse offensive advantages across multiple turns, right? So that means it's not, okay, we have a 50 damage turn, and then we just kind of end the game with a couple more turns, right? They want there to be some back and forth, and the burst turns to be a little bit lower. Okay, so that's what this point is talking about. Now, of course, there still exists combo and OTK decks. They're a little bit further, fewer and further between, but they still want those to exist in the game, and that's a healthy thing to have in a game to an extent, right? They say they were going to require combo and one-turn kill decks to complete a meaningfully difficult quest to execute their fundamental kill turn. So, Bolton is a very, very easy example. Vincent also has an OTK, right? Kano has an OTK, right? And those require some setup. Let's just put it that way. Whether it's not equal, but it's some setup, right?
Kano now is going to take a lot more setup, but they note here that Viscerai and Florian OTK requiring many turns to establish a quantity of rune chance required for an OTK. That makes more sense. That's more akin to what we've used to seeing, like back in the Tales of Aria days and the Everfest days and whatnot, which is the time that I really enjoyed personally. So,
I respect. Go ahead.
I'm just saying, like, because those took a long time, it wasn't just like, boom, here it is. Like, I'm going to block with all of my equipment and have 7 cards in my hand and do like my Zen 40 damage turn. Or I'm going to go, pitch, here's a wildfire. Ooh, I found a tome, draw 2 blues, do it. And then you're dead, right? Like, nobody has fun at the opposite side, right?
When a Viscerai has to earn that, like, one-turn kill, you really felt like they earned it because they've taken the time to build up all those rune chants and set up all these cards and like saved the certain piece of armor that they need to save for the combo turn. When Zen just said, here's my 2 pieces of armor and I've transcended once, it's like it doesn't really feel earned. It just happens. And I don't know.
Yeah, there was a moment I was testing with Ed in Blitz. I was playing Zen and he's playing a Guardian. And I
remember this game.
Yeah, and I had an arsenal of 4 cards in hand. I'm at like 3 or 4, and he's like, "If I swing at you, I die." Like, and he's just like, he had like 2 cards in hand. He's like, "Pass." And I was like, and that was the moment I knew something wasn't like connecting with the game. Was that moment where he's like, "I literally cannot attack you, or I die. Even worse than I'm about to die."
Right.
I was like,
exactly.
That's just jarring.
You played a Cosmic Awakening anyway. I was like, this is stupid. Like, 20. I was like, okay, whatever. But I mean, regardless, like, yeah, that was the point. Is like, I literally cannot continue my game plan of this back and forth because if I attack you, which is like the point of the game, then I lose the game immediately. Just like, there is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Doesn't matter what I send. I send a Spinal, and you're just like, cool, whatever. Block 7. It's just here. Like, I have my whole combo on the board, right? So.
Okay, so let's summarize these 3 things, and we'll move on and talk about why they wanted to rectify them. So, point number 1 is offense has scaled in a ridiculous way, especially with extra cards in hand. And having 1 large turn is becoming better than having many, many good medium turns, right? And combo and OTK decks are not completing a significantly hard quest to execute their game plan. So those are like kind of the status of the game. So therefore, what do we do? Or what is some of the underlying causes? And well, apparently it is it is drawing cards. That is the conclusion that the LSS dev team came to, which I think most of us can agree is the reason for 1, 2, and 3 here. So, as of September 9th, so this is after the world premiere? Interesting. Okay, so all the side events are gonna. Oh God, I thought this was gonna be today, but okay, interesting.
Yeah, people who are already traveling.
It
they
doesn't
don't
matter.
need to refigure
Everybody's
out
gonna be
all that
playing
stuff.
sealed.
Sealed, yeah.
And it's
for-
super
If
limited
you're
the
not
whole weekend.
at a world premiere, if you're not playing sealed or draft,
Yeah,
like
fair.
what are you doing?
Okay. All right, so there are 8 cards that are banned in CC and Blitz. There's also a card that is restricted in Living Legend. So we have the 8 cards pulled up here. Not quite the Power 9, but pretty dang close. All right. The very first card that was mentioned. And I don't know if this was first because it is the most impactful, or is it because it's alphabetically the first? I don't know. Looks like it is alphabetically.
Seems
Okay,
alphabetical.
Yeah.
It's
okay.
alphabetical.
All right. Well, still, I think this is like the most important ban. So Art of War is now banned in CC and Blitz. So, all right. So let's analyze this by starting off thinking like, okay, which decks play Art of War? Ninja, Levia. Just those
Ninja
two.
in general.
Ninja
Yeah.
in general.
Oldhim.
And any Shadow Hero. Oldhim?
Yeah, I mean, I played
What?
Art of War. And then
Yeah.
banished
Oh,
cards.
my
It's
goodness.
just
If
like
you're
a
playing the
bunch
new
of-
chess piece, Bolton,
Yeah.
I was like,
Yes.
saw
Yeah,
it.
that's true. That's true.
I did experiment.
But
with that,
realistically, ninjas,
That's fair.
Levia, and was that it? Was there one more?
It's the main ones, yeah.
And it stinks for ninjas, but aside from Zen, I preferred what Katsu was doing before, and it felt
too.
like Zen was always just like a bastardized version of Mystic strong, Bonds is strong, Art of War is strong. I'd really like to see him have a better identity than that.
yeah, I was really excited for Zen when I saw him. I was a Katsu main for about 6 months beforehand. I saw him. I was getting excited for like the Tiger payoffs, and it was just Bonds. And I was just like, oh, we're back to this point. Okay, cool. He's just better Katsu. Like they didn't really. I don't feel like they gave him identity other than you get to generate a Tiger in your hand Katsu, which is going to be for Art of War. It's just like, okay, cool.
The banning of the final color of Bonds really opened my eyes. I don't know why. I guess I'm just someone who looks at a surface level, but keeping one copy behind before made me think like, it's not that bad. Like, no, Bonds is a bastardization of combo. It's like combo doesn't matter. Bonds is to combo, and Flusterfist is the other combo. Like Bonds just made it so simple, and the whole reason that combo was cool in Katsu back in the day is because it was interesting. It's like, what's going to come up next? It was fucking Bonds. That's what was going to come up next. Like, it got so boring.
Dude,
Thank
it
God
was
it's
so
gone.
easy. I threw my Civic Steps in front of a Descendant Gust Wave almost 100% of the time. It was awesome. Never had to worry about the Quicken token. It was great.
So the reasoning that LSS gave in their article is that Art of War has been used to cheat with shadow cards, with tigers, Phoenix Flame, stuff like that, and Art of Wars can compound upon themselves and with other Anthem effects and create those giant turns, which is talking about this one. And if you get a giant enough turn, it basically becomes an OTK deck. Like, you just stumbled into it, and it's like, oh, okay, I guess I just win now. Because I drew Art of War, into Ancestral, into 7 wide. Okay, so Nathan, I feel like you've been a little bit quiet and reserved here. I
Just happy to be here.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Finish what you're saying.
No, I was just gonna ask, like, what's going on.
I'll just say that, like, the way that I would sum up this whole kind of BNR announcement is, in my past several streams, for probably like the past 6 months, I've had a lot of topics on like polarization and just the general feeling of feeling hopeless, specifically the word hopeless in a match. And this could be derived from like a bad matchup or just your hero not being able to interact with what your opponent is trying to do. And I think they just struck that down just across the board, you know. And just accidental wins, which is, I think, it's fun to do things powerful. I don't think anybody can try to counter that point. It's fun to do powerful things in card games. It's what everybody wants to actively be doing. But at the same time, you don't want to just like rob what your opponent is trying to do. And so I really like the bans across the board, specifically Art of War, reducing the ceiling on a lot of stuff. The problem is, at the same time, I know this hurts a lot of players because this, to me, this feels like a Skeleton ban for Viserai, for Ninja, like an equivalent. And it's, you know, it put Viserai basically out of commission for a little bit over a year. And so I can kind of like sympathize for that. But Ninja players are going to have to wait for that next set. I don't know how far out it is, but wait for some new card. Because, I mean, I'm interested to see how they solve this issue with just from a developmental standpoint. Because you have a lot of empty holes right now. Like Dishonor doesn't have any text on it, right? It's a useless card. It'll never be in a game of Flesh and Blood ever again until that ban's gone, right? You have just, I don't know. Like, they've come up with some innovative stuff. Like, they've taken the Viserai cost curve, made it a 2 cost curve to fit the weapons that are legal in Classic Constructed. With, like, hit the high note, moving it from Shrill. So that's some very, like, innovative solutions. And I'm excited to see how the dev team kind of, like, fills that void. For all these heroes, you got Kano problems, you got Prism problems, right? Because Prism's got a fatigue problem now that she's gonna have to solve. Like anybody with a bunch of poppers, like there's some solutions that you're gonna have to find there. So,
okay, so Art of War was the very is the very first card that they kind of listed here, and a lot of these are basically indirectly or directly a version of Art of War. We talked about Bonds of Ancestry being banned. Dishonor is now a card that's not relevant. Cash in. Sorry, Olympia. Sorry, Kasai. It was very funny. The Kasai purple Discord was like melting down, and I was like, it's so funny. The Olympia Discord was like, lol, okay. And the Kasai Discord's like, what do we do now? Yeah, but there were some other decks that use this. I know Runeblade sometimes wear the Crown of Dominion, and they play with this. And yeah, there might be. I think Runeblade is probably the one that would utilize this the most, but it looks like that one's gone. Tome of Firebrand, for those of you guys who don't remember what this is.
I did.
This is the card that wheeled in draft. Play this only if you control 4 more Draconic Chain Links. If you were Fi, maybe you could play this in draft, but interestingly enough, I did see this at Pro Tour 4. My round 1 opponent was playing a Fi combo deck with Tome of Firebrand, so
yeah, with the Mask of the Pouncing Lynx, and they would get what's the other 2 block other than Salt the Wound? Tenacity, if you blocked out heavy enough on the big turn.
Did you beat him?
Barely. It was like 1 or 2 health. I think I went down to 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was barely.
Pretty close then. Yeah. Pretty close. Okay.
The other heroes that could play this, Dromai is already LL'd. Emperor wasn't playing this in Blitz, and that's Blitz. So this basically is just hitting Fi, hitting that OTK Fi combo deck that, let's be frank, was using Art of War and Tome of Firebrand. So that's pretty much dead. So, the one spicy necklace, the one spicy necklace that existed.
It was on life support.
Yeah.
This reminds me of like the Berserk band, and the one Rhinar Berserk player is just screaming.
Really good at
just
it.
why me?
Yeah.
They made it look really good for 30 minutes.
I know.
And that was it.
Ah,
All right, Orihon of Mystic Tenets. This one was actually used quite a bit. Now,
It was.
Now, interestingly enough, this was a legendary, which kind of already shows that LSS was like, okay, hold on. This card is like really good, but we still want it to be in the game because it's a spicy card, kind of like the Sacred Arts. But if they have too many of these, this can get really out of hand, right? So I think all of us have played enough MST to have gotten killed by Zen going Art of War. Oh, I drew Orihon. Great. And proceeds to kill you, right? Yeah. 4 resources is actually very trivial because of the Kasaya. So
That was cool to read them touch on that. I think Kasaya came after Orihon, so that was just kind of like a bit of a speed bump.
okay. Yep. Interesting. Okay, so this obviously applies to all 3 of the Mystic Heroes, but I don't believe New was really running this. Obviously, Zen was running this as a one-of. We can only run it as a one-of. Were Enigma lists running Orihon? In
Not that I saw.
general, no, right? Okay. Well, now
really.
they can't, so there's that. Okay.
It's just a Zen card.
So this is mainly a Zen ban, right? So Art of War, we have Ninja and Levia. Cash-in, we have Rune Blades and Warriors. Tome of Firebrand was Fi. Bonds was Ninjas. Rip Katsu. Orihon was targeted towards Zen. So we still have these 3 here. So Tome of Fendel. Now this is an interesting card. And I actually kind of want to tell a little bit of a story, right? This was printed in WTR. And this does not have Go Again. Meaning, in the OG set, how would you activate this and take advantage of it? If you were Reinhardt, Dorinthia, Bravo, or Katsu, how would you utilize this card?
Just be
There's
a
so many
scab.
decks you can't.
Be a scabs roll.
Yep, Scab's Roll is the lowest hanging fruit. That is the most obvious answer. Now, give me the more advanced answer.
Oh, Time Snap Potion.
It is Time Stat Potion. So, you noticed how they didn't print a card that said, like, Diamond exists, but that's just for the Rudy decks, right?
Mhm.
Time Stat Potion basically says, draw a card. But it has to be combined with Tome of Fendel, right? And you have to set it up, right? So, that was the original power level of Draw 2, is, okay, you put down a potion, so you have to pay the cost of having a no block card in your deck. You have to take an action point to play it. Then you have to find the Tome of Fendel. Now, obviously, you do get a little bit of benefit from the life gain and all that, but that was a lot of steps to get to Tome of Fendel, right? And more modern design, it is much easier to just draw 2, right? This being removed targets Kano and who?
Mage Master Boot Bravo.
Mage Master Boots Bravo.
Prism Cyborg sometimes. They play it into some Guardians.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
I guess Dash.io, they could be playing.
Yeah.
Right,
It's really
right.
it's
Yes,
the Mechanologist and the Wizards. That's who we're taking the hit here.
Yep.
And this
And Rune Blade.
contributed...
A little bit Runeblade.
Mhm.
Yeah, with the
Spellbound
creepers.
Creeper did. Yep. So this card actually made Dash.io quite scary and very volatile. Like sometimes Dash.io would just, everything would line up and they'd just roll you over. And sometimes things were clunky, they didn't find a tome, and it looked like what you're like, what is your deck supposed to be doing, right? Spoiler alert, I think Dash.io probably gets much better in the next set, but we'll cross that bridge later. Okay, any other thoughts on Tome of Fendel?
Bummer to see an OG go, but I'm just an OG Andy. I see these OG cards catch bans, and I'm like that. I'm sad about it, but ultimately, I'm happier with the potential future.
This
So
and E-Strike
that weighs it.
were it's like, if we go back
yeah.
to WTR, it was
Thank God E-Strike's safe.
E-Strike Tome, and then in ARC it was CNC Art of War, or the generic Majestics. And now half of the generic Majestics are gone. Are gone.
Oh,
right?
Thank God E-Strike's safe.
I think E-Strike and CNC should be safe.
They'll be safe. Yeah,
I think they're pretty safe, yeah.
I love those cards.
Yeah.
Those are the ones I own 6 of. I have 3 Art of Wars, but I have 6 E-Strikes and CNCs.
Probably a safe investment. Okay, finally we have Tome of Aetherwind. I'm sure a lot of us have been killed by Kano essentially getting another look at the top of their deck.
They covered this perfectly in the announcement, just saying like certain wizards get nothing out of this card, but the wizards who do get, honestly, probably more than they should. It's a card where you've beaten Kano and he's like, well, let me Kano, and he hits book off the top and suddenly the game is turned on its head. It's a little too powerful.
Okay.
We glossed over Tome of Divinity too.
Ah, sorry about that.
That was on purpose.
Yeah, the Bolton player doesn't want us to know about this. It's not bad, guys. We can still play this. Okay,
Did
so
you have
Tome
a
of
list
Divinity.
that you ever actually played that?
No.
Okay.
It's a
I
card.
tried to make a list with Solar Plexus and Art of War and Tome of Divinity, and I couldn't get it to work. Okay, so Tome of Divinity. This is the card that allows Prism to spit 4 auras onto the board in 1 turn and overwhelm their opponent. This also contributes to the whole ALS lock because it allows you to dump things onto the board. Any other light hero that?
That's it.
Yeah, I'm like, is there another light hero? No, there's not. Okay, so
I can speak on Divinity real quick. Tome of Divinity is a card that I fell in love with when I first started playing this game, as Prism was my first hero that I really was drawn to in Classic Constructed. It allows you to do things that were really above rate when you played 2 of them in a row. Now that I'm someone who has moved on to other heroes and get to experience Prism more so from the other side of the table now than ever before, Tome of Divinity is an unfair card. It's fine when you just play 1, but Prism never just plays 1. She waits until she has the ability to play 2. And when you resolve 2 Tome of Divinities and swing a Angel of Soraya, Lord forbid, you just present a board state that is so unfair and I don't even want to say unfun, because it doesn't matter that it's unfun. It's unwinnable after a certain point. If you resolve Merciful Genis and an Arclight Sentinel, and then Arsenal and Arclight Sentinel, the game's over right then and there. And even though I love Prism, that's too much. And I like Vestige players. I'm sorry, Vestige players. You might have lost the version of your deck. You might have to switch over to what's the other chest called? Taylor,
Rapture.
help me out. Rapture. You might be a Rapture deck now, which I'll admit I'm not excited about that because I'm a Vestige guy. Vestige is what made me excited about New Prism. But Divinity is unfun. From the other end of the table, even though maybe you have a disconnect and you can't see it, 2 Tome of Divinities into an unfair board state is not fun, and that should not exist in this game.
I mean, they lose their high roll potential, right? And that's the point with all of these cards, is like they're taking away the high roll potential of these decks.
Yep. Like we said, they're trying to have many medium turns instead of some larger turns.
Exactly.
Okay, so yeah, everything is basically returning to these 3 points that we talked about earlier. Okay. I guess let's chit-chat a little bit about Bond's Vast Ancestry being restricted in Living Legend. I have not played a single game of Living Legend because none of my favorite heroes are anywhere close to being Living Legend. So I know, Taylor, you've played quite a bit of Living Legend. What do you think about this? So this, specifically, it says 1 copy of a card named Bonds of Ancestry. So you could choose a red, a yellow, or a blue. You can't have 1-1-1. It's just either. Realistically, you either have the red or the blue.
Yeah, that one actually kind of surprised me because I thought Zen actually did have answers in LL as Oldham. If you play really well, I think Oldham is favored in that matchup, and I think Icelander is pretty favored if you play correctly in sideboard. So that I felt like that was a little heavy-handed, personally. but I guess, people are just getting sick of Xin. They're going to Blitz. They're losing a turn 1. They're playing CC. They're getting destroyed by Xin. They're like, let's just neuter him everywhere. People are tired of seeing his face. It was kind of like Starvo back in the Everfest meta. You're like, I don't want to see this guy. I don't want to go out of my house because he might be outside waiting for me.
I love that guy.
Yeah, it's just like, I don't even want to think about him. So just, neuter him there. I still think he probably has game, but I think Chain probably overtakes his position in where I thought would be the best aggro deck in LL. Maybe even, if you want to call Prism an aggro deck, that deck is just a mix of everything, honestly. But a single copy of Bans I did feel was very heavy.
Okay.
Is it not 1 red, 1 yellow, and 1 blue?
No, it's just one. It's just one.
Oh.
That's very.
That might be a little heavy-handed. I thought it was 1.
I understand it from their side because you don't want players to go play Living Legend. You're like, oh, I don't have to play against that boogeyman of CC, and then your opponent, oh, okay, Stubbies, and you're like, oh no, it's like, oh no.
There are no banned cards in LL, right?
No,
Just
no,
It's restricted.
it's restricted.
So this is them banning bonds, but keeping the ability to say that there are no banned cards
Yes.
in LL. Okay.
Kind of, yeah.
You get
Which
your choice.
is very weird to me. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know why it's so important to say that there's no banned cards. I don't know why that's.
Well, I think it's
don't
the
know.
philosophy that they're trying to look at it from, if you've ever played Magic, Vintage. Vintage only has restricted cards, and those are really powerful ones, the Moxen and stuff like that. So they're trying to keep like a correlation to Vintage Magic, which I understand as a Magic player. I get the idea.
They've invested in Fab Metal tokens, and they want the Dishonored token to be used still.
They being used in CC.
Yeah, because one bonds is making that card playable.
I played 3 Dishonored.
Technically playable. All right, there are
God.
several cards that they mentioned, and I think we're going to get into several cards that they have not mentioned that we may or may not still have some issues with. But they talked about 3 of a kind: Tome of Harvest, Tome of the Arknight, and Tome of the Imperial Flame. What is Tome of the Imperial Flame again? Is this?
What?
Oh, that was the stupid busted Dromai card.
That's
Right,
the
I remember.
Dromai card.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
that's
I
Right.
am shocked that Tome of Firebrand got hit,
Yeah.
but
Look, Tome
not
of Firebrand
that one.
has
Yeah.
more future potential, while Tome of
my
Imperial
God.
Flame... Tome of Imperial Flame has a lot of restrictions on it. That card is bad unless you jump through
Yeah,
like 3
that's what they
hoops.
said in the article.
The restrictions are play red cards.
Yeah.
Right.
But you also need to be
Right.
royal. You also...
Yeah, but like,
So that's your head slot. You got to be royal. And you got to play a lot of red cards. Like
Okay.
Fi can't
Yeah.
play it. Like, there's restrictions.
can.
It doesn't block. It's an instant. Oh, he doesn't want to.
Could, but yeah, like
I
why
mean,
would you, right?
does the card technically draw 2? I mean, it kind of like cycles itself more than.
Now they did say there's
drawing.
apparently a Phoenix Flame interaction. Maybe there's something there people don't know about. There's some kind of weird interaction I didn't know existed. Did you?
Just
I-
turning reds into blues are pretty good. That's
Yeah.
all.
I've never
I know.
cast a card.
It's pretty
Nor-
good.
nor have I.
I bought a playset after saying I didn't like playing Dromai, and then I never played them because I still didn't like playing Dromai. So I just wasted money on that.
So.
Yeah.
Okay, so
But the
so
other
the common theme among these cards is that LSS thinks these are sufficiently difficult enough to execute, or they are restrictive enough in that you can't play multiples. So that's why they didn't hit these. Ed, you were going to say something?
I was going to say what you were saying.
Okay.
You knocked it out.
Okay, so chat, I know... Well, I haven't really looked at chat. I think we need to interact with chat a little bit. I know you guys have been typing in chat, but I haven't really been reading there.
Right.
Let's start a poll. Let's start a poll.
Real
Alright, what-
quick, I don't
what
know
do
who
we
said it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was gonna ask you guys, what do you think is a good question to ask our audience at the moment? Like, first thoughts, or
I mean,
I say just
let's-
let chat fire on like what they agree and disagree with the
I was gonna
bands,
say,
and let's
as far as the poll
just have a
goes, give us a
discourse on it.
baseline, positive, negative. How does everybody
Okay.
feel about the bans? Positive, negative.
Ooh,
We'll
thoughts
go
on not banning
positive,
codec.
neutral. Yeah, we'll talk about
Ooh,
codec.
positive, negative. Codec should have
neutral,
been banned.
and results.
You can't
First-
ban what you haven't read.
Yeah.
No, but real quick to touch on chat. This is a while ago. I've been reading it as we've been streaming, but somebody said LSS is burning books like it's Fahrenheit 451, and that just tickled my funny
That's
bone
pretty
because
good.
I read that book in high school, and that's pretty funny if you've read that book.
Right.
But no, yeah, please chat, hit it, vote in the vote in the poll, but hit us with your feelings, hit us with your questions.
Very negative. I see a decent number of.
All right.
It
well,
is.
I mean,
Yeah,
most
it's
of it's
pretty all over the
positive.
place. Yeah.
It is.
all right.
Mo-
Please vote in the chat. We posted it now.
Because like
All right,
I
if-
for one. You go, Nathan.
Go ahead.
No.
Taylor,
Uh,
you first.
So, if you're saying positive, we understand why, right? Like it makes sense. But like, if you're putting very negative, obviously you feel very strong about it. Say why. Say why.
Yeah. Give a little context.
Wait, what? Magic players, what is faithless looting? Somebody's saying faithless looting did nothing wrong. I don't get the joke there.
Faceless looting is one resource, and you draw 2 and discard 2. So
Yeah.
it's like a
Tome, more or less.
yeah.
Okay.
It's the same idea, and it kind of is.
Right over my head.
It's like tome
So-
with a dark ritual because it makes the resources when you pitch. So
Right.
And
So
So we
yeah,
can talk
and-
about Tome of the Arknight. That missed the ban.
But when we talk about looting, just for example, Will, just kind of educate you a little bit. So like
Okay.
when we're referring to the Acelia looting, that's what we mean is a filter. Yeah.
Okay.
So, as someone that plays Art of War decks, I think I've registered maybe 10 to 15 tournaments with Art of War in my deck.
Hey, did you ever play it in Lexi?
I played one at the Baltimore Calling.
Hell yeah. I read 2.
Yeah,
I
I
just
could never get behind that card.
I just realized how
Sorry,
stupid
Guyz.
my poll is because if you want to click results, that means you feel neutrally about the poll.
it's okay. 0% results. That's even better.
0% results.
There
You
we
guys
go.
all have
Clicking and
strong
now you said
opinions. We love to
Perfect.
see
That's
strong
what we need.
opinions.
Weak opinions can get the fuck out of here.
But as someone that plays a lot of Art of War decks, I've cast a fair amount of Art of Wars, and I'd look at my opponent and like almost apologize. Like I draw a hand up, and I'm like, I am so sorry. No matter what you're doing this turn, if you do not kill me, it is game. And like it just feels like the feel bads is there, and I get it. Like I've drawn hands, and I'm just like, man, this is the nuts. Like I could go tutor 4 cards from my hand, put them in my hand. It's it. Sorry.
I had a little bit of that drug when I played Cash in Olympia. I was like, wait, oh my god, my turn is so much stronger. Like I
Draw
never,
another one?
dude, I never did any of those broken things. I never banished things with Levia or Chain. I never played 3 Art of Wars in a turn. I never CMH Force of Nature OTK'd anybody. So my taste of power was, oh, I played Cash. Oh, I have more cards now. Huh.
Dude, they're clicking results now that you said something.
Oh,
Of course.
no,
That's
you
what the
guys.
chat will do. That's what
Don't
the chat
click
will
results.
do.
Vote properly.
So it looks like about 14 people, since it's 10% negative, are all Zen/Katsu players. So it makes sense.
I respect it. I respect it. As someone that plays Katsu, it does hurt me. I have like, I have back here, I have bonds. I'm sad.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it creates feel bads, and I understand it from a play perspective. Like if a new player's coming in and I'm having fun, playing Katsu or something, and then he's like, "Oh, I can't wait! I got, I brought KO," and I'm like, "Oh, that's sweet! I got the armory deck," and we shuffle up, and I just Art of War, Harmony, hit bonds. I am so sorry, man. I'll see you. I'll buy you a drink.
So degenerate.
I mean, I'm sad Tome of Divinity's gone. Like, Prism is my secondary deck right now, so I'm a little sad that my main playstyle is gone, but I am excited to learn and grow from it. That's just
That's
where
so
I'm at.
mature. I love it.
I just want to go back to the olden times, the Boomer Fab.
Yep.
Where we get a second cycle. and actually have some skill expression. That would be
It's
great.
fun pitching your Rain Razors and your Bolton Shots and a Codex of Frailty to the bottom for the second cycle. There's a reason they're yellow and blue.
But what do we tell the ninja players?
Okay. I'm sorry, Zen ruined Katsu for you. That's as simple as that. He literally just ruined the game. Like I love Katsu. It was my favorite deck I ever played during the heavy hitters meta. You know, with KO, that game was amazing. I saw Zen, got excited. Saw Zen even more, wasn't excited. Played Zen, and realized that Katsu is never going to be playable until they print like a completely different line that has nothing to do with bonds, because he is just going to abuse this for the next, as long as it exists, pretty much.
And no longer.
Exactly.
But you're right. I have a local who's a Katsu fan, and he was excited to play Zen. Zen came out. He realized Zen was kind of like a less fun version of Katsu, if you feel like what Katsu's doing is more fun. And he's now just like oh well, I lost my hero. I'm gonna move on from it. And now he's playing Dio. Like sometimes you just gotta move on from those little things that are less than great for you.
Hey, but just think though, in like 10 years, we'll be telling people, hey, I played when Bonds of Ancestry was legal with Art of War. And they're like, the what? Grandpa, are you serious? And you're like,
The
yes.
stuff that's only in Living Legend?
Yeah, oh my gosh. How did you do that? Like, oh, it was trivial times back then.
I also want to throw an idea out there that there's that Guardian Pack product that's coming out in the future.
Yes.
And I think that is a very easy avenue to solve this whole problem with the ninja class, is to just make that product. It's easy, right? You get to just jam a whole bunch of shit in it to just solve all this, right? You can create a whole new combo line that's relevant. You can just create it halfway and kind of pick up where Bonds left off. There's so many avenues to where you can kind of like solve that problem. So
Guardian Pack is going to have expansion slots?
Give Guardian Bonds is what I just heard.
No. So Guardian Mastery Pack or whatever they called it, where it was like just a pack dedicated to Guardian.
Right. There will be some generics, but they're probably leaning towards Guardian. And
no, it's all Guardian.
Slots. Okay.
The whole thing is Guardian.
No,
how does that help Ninja?
They make one for Ninja.
Okay.
Yeah. We got there. I was going to follow it up. Was your
I thought you were joking around. I was like,
no. You make one for Ninja, and then that way it just allows you to
in all Ninja.
It's the same thing as the Armory deck, right? It's just more in depth, more cards, so forth. Hell, you can do it in the Armory deck.
Yeah.
A crack and play Ninja set could introduce some very interesting combo cards. Yeah, I agree. I think that's very smart.
Give me Adult Ira. I want to go Kadachi, CNC for 7. And I'll just...
Adult Ira isn't coming until something crazy happens. And it's going to come. Someday we will get Adult Ira.
As soon as they ban Art of War, we're allowed to... Oh, well, look at here, boys.
And she's going to give +1 to 3 attacks, not just 1.
Oh, boy.
And they do, in the wrapping up spot, they do say something about, like, for some of those classes, such as Guardian and Warrior, there are cards and upcoming products that we believe will help them wrestle back some points in those matchups, right? So they kind of lean into that, and they know that, well, I think Guardian's still pretty good, but, like, they're going to give some more tools, right? So it'll be the same thing eventually for Ninja, right? That might be the next one.
Please don't do this to me, Ed.
Okay.
I'm just happy it's Guardian first.
I think what we should talk about now, we'll try to be a little bit on brand for the chart guys, is all right. All of these things have been implemented. Let's assume that the 4 new heroes from Rosetta are B+, A- tier heroes. What does the meta look like?
Enigma everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Enigma, I think, is the biggest winner after these bans. There are still ways to counter Enigma. There's still gameplay that you can employ to have a good match into her. But her worst matchups just got the biggest hit. So she is a winner right now.
I agree. I think Enigma is probably public enemy number 1, followed closely by KO. And I think those two decks are going to cause a very Dromai Lexi kind of feel, where they are very polarizing to each other's bad and good matches, where it kind of makes those two the best decks to play.
Now,
Yep.
my first thought was, okay, now that there's less spike turns, these defensive decks like Arachne, Guardian, Decimator, Warrior, you might, if Enigma's not a significant amount of the metagame, you could just, and Kano, you could basically just say, all right, I lose to those two, but now the other heroes don't have such ridiculous spike turns. I can beat them with like this slower mid-range control strategy.
I mean, they didn't ban Blood Rush Bella.
That's true. But
They do
Brutes
note
need,
that. But
Brutes need that
it-
card. Imagine
Yeah,
a Brute
it's the
without
Brute
it.
specific.
I'm not saying they don't.
Imagine
I'm just saying,
Ragnar.
yeah, like the spike damage is still there. It's just not oops spike damage, right? So you can, like, there's still really powerful cards that you can lean on to just kind of beat that slower strategy, and that's why I think it's going to be a knee-jerk reaction. Everybody's going to be like, Earth is the way, just life gain your way out of the game. And I don't think that that's going to go how it's intended. I'm not saying it's an invalid strategy. I'm just saying that it's not. It's going to be a lot more difficult than people are going to make it out to be.
Okay. I think we need to talk a little bit about New, because I feel like she dodged a ton of bullets, and New was one of the strongest heroes in the MST meta, very proactive, and didn't really hit any bans. So what do you guys think about New?
She got like a shadow ban by Zing going away, making Enigma more popular. I think that's what what we're going to see more than anything else.
Her best matchup taking a hit is technically her taking a hit too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not only that, but just for the next month or two, she's going to be a lot weaker because she doesn't. Assassin's one of those classes where you have to know what you're targeting to determine what 2 for 6 you're going to play, right? Because you got Amnesia, Weakest Link, you got all that whole kit, if you will, and maybe Humble makes a reappearance or something like that. But just it needs to know what it needs to target. And then, so there'll be like a month period where New will be really lackluster, but I think she'll lock it back in. I don't think she's like gone. I just think she just needs to recalibrate.
Okay.
Quick question for Ed. What's your opinion on Victor going into the next meta? Like with what we've seen, and let's say that the new heroes are beat.
So it depends on the way Enigma kind of restructures, right? Because we expect that to be the big deck, and she becomes more defensive, and she could play things like the 10Ks and the more auras that are like kind of more sticky and hard to get rid of. Then Victor will also have to restructure his style and what you can do with that. I believe it will be slightly unfavored if they do lean into that, but there are ways that you can kind of combat that with certain tech cards. The other thing is Victor also kind of lost one of his better matchups too in Zen, right? So Zen will still be around, obviously. Like people will probably tune in and figure it out. It's going to be still a decent aggro deck, right? But just a lot more explosive. So, or a lot less explosive. I think I said more. Anyway, so losing that is a big deal, which then becomes KO, like we said. So we expect Enigma and KO to kind of be up there. KO is one of his worst matchups, right? Any of the K, Y, or N O's, right? Those are bad, right?
All of them are bad.
The K decks, the K decks are bad. Yep. So, but yeah, Kano received a little bit of a loss. Right. So, Kano lost, some utility and some burst turns and whatnot. So we might be able to have a position as a Guardian to be able to kind of combat these wizards, where normally, you sit across a Kano and you're just like, all right, you just want to go to lunch, get a beer. All right, come on, Caleb, we're going to go over here. I'm talking about Majin, right? So he always claps me, but it's a little weird, and we'll have to kind of see how the meta shakes up, right? So it's Enigma and KO, which can be slightly unfavored and then decently unfavored, just depending on the situation, because it's so random, right, with the clashes. but then you win in a way by losing the Kano. So I think he's still fine. It's probably around like the same area that he's at, probably like B tier, A tier, something along those lines. Probably B tier just to be safe.
Okay. I have gotten several messages directly on Discord asking me, Josh, is Hatchet Warrior back now? The answer is probably not if Enigma's running around. But it is more favorable. The meta is generally going to be more favorable because these power cards are the ones that overwhelmed. Like, Hatchet's Story, Hatchet's Bolton, Hatchet's Olympia does not interact with their opponent in a significant way. So, yeah. Is there any other heroes here that we want to talk about on this page?
When Betsy gets a
Riptide.
new weapon, she might be insane. I'm just kidding.
Okay, let's start with Riptide.
No, like I'm serious. Like Riptide has a pretty solid matchup into Enigma, I believe. I think Prism was a pretty bad matchup. It got nerfed a little bit. Kano was an unwinnable matchup. Got nerfed a little bit. I mean, is it possible that Riptide has a pretty good game going forward?
Definitely could be.
And he has built-in AB into his kit, so the wizards, do a little bit better than potentially you can play a little bit more blues. You got your trench, you got your bracers and all that, right? Like, you can probably do it.
He probably gained some points. I don't think he gained a ton.
Yeah,
he gained some points.
And there's a new card too that's coming out. I don't remember specifically what it is, but I remember at least that it seemed okay, right? I think it was like a remembrance style card, but yeah.
Okay. We've talked about some heroes that we think got better. Is there, I mean, other than Zen, is there heroes that stand out got significantly worse? So, for
Prism,
example,
Kano.
Yeah, Prism and Kano, I guess, are the
Katsu.
main ones. And Nathan, to your point,
He was never good.
poor Katsu. To your point, Prism and Kano, so Illusionists and Wizards in general, are the largest offenders of creating those 90-10 matchups. And we'll see if going forward they can kind of smooth out those, auto win matchups.
Real quick. So just to kind of go back into the decks that kind of win too, I see somebody talking about Vincent is actually viable in Rosetta potentially. So that could be a very good counter to, like, if it is just 25% Enigma or something like that, that, that is a way to potentially get around that because you send unpreventable rune chant. You know what I'm saying? And then, what was the other one? Bear with me. Mechanologist could be pretty good in that too, because Mechanologist traditionally has a pretty decent matchup into that style, just being able to send a bunch. Like, I know Max has a pretty good matchup into Enigma, just with his combo mech stuff, and can do big turns. And then Dash IO with the new card is going to be a menace, right? And I would imagine that matchup to be pretty good against that too. So we could see a meta where, like, the triangle could be, like Enigma, KO, Dash IO, and then like your sprinklings of a couple of other decks. Maybe we see one of the Rune Blades. Maybe Victor's keep coming around because Cast Homes is broken. And then, Riptide, whatever, right? So it should be kind of diverse is what I'm trying to get at. Like, with like one deck that everybody's kind of aiming for, but everybody else is kind of like around.
This is the first time we've ever had new heroes entering the format and a BNR this substantial together. Like, the calling in Leon is going to be nuts. I think that's the first tier 3, tier 4 event, and then like a month after that is Worlds. Yeah. So this is a huge meta shakeup.
It makes me feel not as hopeless when I'm like looking at my Ocilio cards, thinking how Zin's gonna kill me on turn 3. Because that's the only thing I've been focusing on. I was like, oh.
All right, time to go back to France, boys.
Yep, just a different part of France. All right, So there's one other topic I want to cover. Now, I remember, Nathan, last week you streamed talking about Zen, and in your stream you mentioned how since this is the second time they're trying to fix Zen, it's not just gonna be a slap on the wrist. They gotta murder Zen. Did they sufficiently murder Zen, or is Traverse, Striders, Ancestral Harmony still strong enough?
No, so in my stream, I basically said that I would make a BNR announcement to the level that he needed to be, and then I would just add a card. So I think that
Just in case.
yeah, basically to guarantee it, right? Because you don't want to run the risk of kind of getting it wrong twice. And so, right, and so basically, I think that the conclusion was drawn that Art of War had to go, and I think that there's a world where it might have been enough, and then the extra little piece was just that Bonds, taking the last 3 copies of Bonds out
and Orion
to kind of shore it up to guarantee it. And so I think they did exactly that. I think they solved that problem. Obviously, the collateral damage. Katsu got hit with not 1 bullet but 2. That's. I mean, I feel for him, but they did what they sought out to do. I don't think that Zen is going to terrorize the meta anymore. Is he going to go away completely? Probably not. I think Zen is still an okay aggro deck. He's probably not going to be the best aggro deck. Probably not going to be the second best aggro deck. But he's okay.
I asked this question because I have a little bit of fear. Us boomers will remember the most dominant hero in the Monarch metagame was Chain. Week 2 to week 4 of that RTN season, it was just Chain dominance. And I remember the very first time I played against Seb, and I remember you were watching that game. I was just like, because afterwards you told me, hey, I want to learn, like, how does Josh beat Chain? And I got my ass kicked by Seb so hard. And
I was like, he doesn't.
Oh, I just don't. And I was like, that was the first time I was like, because Seb was like one of the first very good Chain players I played. I was like, what do I do? I was like, good game, Seb. Go to the finals. And
you wait until their second Soul Shackle and your Arclight Sentinel. Duh.
Yeah, that's what you're supposed to do, right? As a different team. So now, what did they do? They banned Seeds of Agony, all colors, gone. And then people were like, oh, such a big nerf. Okay, we won't touch.
He's dead.
He's dead. And then, who won Pro Tour 1? Chain won Pro Tour 1.
Yep.
So, I'm kind of like, okay, hold on here. Rumors of my demise may be overstated here. That's a little bit. Yeah.
Concerning
that was
Zen,
with Rosetta.
I agreed with what you were saying just now, Josh, but Taylor made a great point.
Yeah.
Bonds did a lot of heavy lifting in Zen. Losing that is a crazy hit. You can ignore Art of War. Bonds is the real big hit in him.
Okay. I don't know. I'm just saying,
it's both.
If Zen wins Worlds, I'm not going to be shocked. Okay, guys.
All right. We'll see.
I will.
Yeah. You do it, Taylor.
Maybe there's a Tiger line there, and his one of Anthem for Tigers will show up right when it's good all the time. We'll see.
If I see Zen and he just keeps drawing, the perfect Tiger swipe lines, I might call a judge. I have worked on that deck numerous times, and every time I draw a hand, I'm like, this is literal garbage.
Yep.
But maybe someone could do it better than me. I don't know.
We'll see. Okay. All right. I guess that kind of wraps things up. Any final thoughts on the BNR? And then we'll kind of get out of here. We are heading, 4 of us are heading to Tampa. So if you're going to be in Tampa, say hi to us.
Look forward to seeing you all in Florida. It's going to be a great time. Let's crack
everybody
some
but
packs
Taylor
together.
on the stream.
Yep.
Aaron is also unfortunately not going to be there.
Yeah. Okay, so any final thoughts on the BNR?
Real quick, good, like Taylor just said. But my main takeaway was, for those of us who weren't thrilled with the one-turn kills out of certain heroes, with Prisms doing unfair things, not even specifically those two heroes, just like Fab going in a direction that wasn't exactly the Fab we fell in love with. Everything James had to say in that article addressed worries that I didn't even know I had. I was a no bans Andy. I didn't want to see Art of War go. I wanted to hold on to these cards that I've been enjoying since the beginning. Like, I was clutching them so close. And now that they're gone, it's like I've got a weight off my shoulders. It's so nice to know that there's someone steering the ship who truly cares and who wants to keep this game going in a direction that has its core values at heart. And I'm so thrilled with that.
I would like to make a comment on that comment.
Mm.
If any of you guys here have ever watched high-level Yu-Gi-Oh play, I know that James White used to be a Yu-Gi-Oh judge, I believe. You can correct me if I'm wrong. And if you ever watch their games, they draw 1,000 cards a turn, special summon 14 cards. And I think he might have saw the writing on the wall with like, hey, we're drawing too many cards, too many actions are happening per the game. It's like that slippery slope that we might have eventually went down. Hey, this tome's, not good enough anymore. We need print a better tome for this hero. And it's just like, it just cascades. So I'm glad they nipped it in the butt early.
Right.
Not only that, but they gave us the direction of which they're going, right? Because they got to a point, they got to a crossroads. It's actually a very difficult spot for LSS because there's going to be a lot of play. Like, I hate to say it, but a lot of the cards being banned that they hit, more talking about like the tomes, kind of is going to completely just demolish the current identity of the heroes that play those cards. And some will not invest the time to kind of, solve that problem. Some will. But some people will leave the game, and that's unfortunate. And so it's a very difficult decision the LSS made. But whether it was right or wrong, I think the fact that they gave us a direction, right? We were on a path, right? And we were comfortable at one point. And people began asking, are we going to keep going down that road or are we going to take it back a little bit? And they gave us our answer. So I'm stoked about that aspect of it.
Right.
I think this really just shows that, like, every single time I question a little bit, I'm like, I don't know if we're going in the right direction. And then, James White just, it's like, no, we're gonna go in the correct direction. We're going over here. And I don't know. The game is in very good hands, and they really care about the game, which is like, that's really, really, really important for the longevity of this game. And LSS are really, really doing great. And I remember about a week ago. Was this about a week ago, Nathan? When Brian was like, "Hey, we're working on it. We're working on it. We're working on things. It's coming up." I don't think we expected like an overhaul quite like this. I think a lot of us were like, "Okay, they're going to ban Art of War Striders, and maybe they'll ban another."
That's why I'm so excited. I was expecting something small, and then we got this just big sweeping, like, "Hey guys, look how much we actually are invested in the care," and that's so nice.
James White was like, "Okay, guys, hold on. We're really off course now. Our player base has been consistently talking about this point now. Okay, let's pull it back to our roots. What did we do at the very start of the game when we were the WTR ARC days, right?" Good to see James getting the ship back to the right direction.
Just next time, communicate it a little faster. The message said, I don't care about the timing. It's just the message that Brian sent out said that they knew he was too good, and they have known for quite some time. And there was no like, hey, we're working on this. Hey, we know, like everybody calm down, until everybody was literally just burning down Twitter. So like, maybe before that happens, like when you come to the realization, you're actively investigating, like, hey, we're working on something here,
This will most certainly solve potential future issues as well by saying, all right, you want to draw cards, you're going to have to do it the old WTR way. You're going to have to roll Scabbies, Savage Feast. You're going to have a big hand and push that 1 point of damage with Ancestral Empowerment. Get that Mask of Momentum trigger. You're going to have to keep your 5-card hands. You're going to have your Bolters ready to get that double Supremacy swing. You're going to have to do whatever Guardians do to draw cards, Block, apparently. It's the 2024 way to draw cards. Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
So
drawing cards is going to be harder, guys. Yeah.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay.
Is that Brian Gottlieb in the comments, or is that someone pretending to be him? That's someone pretending. Okay, moving on.
That's a fair, Brian. That's a fair point. That's a fair.
We were nice. We were nice.
That's a very fair point.
That's a very fair point.
If it is Brian, I love you, Brian, and I was never one of the mean ones.
I wasn't the main one. I just presented the data. That was.
I see that. I see that.
Yeah. There it is. There it is. I'm just throwing up the numbers, Brian. They took it and ran with it. I promise.
Yeah.
I just make jokes.
Yep.
That's it.
So ultimately, I think this is a great ban.
Yeah.
And the big thing is that like nobody's looming doom as much anymore, so we can go into Rosetta and be happy, right? And have a great time this weekend.
Yeah, this just makes my weekend so much better.
Exactly.
Like it's like
just like, oh, we have so much to
drawing
do, right?
extra cards on your 5-card hand. We already have a 5-card hand going into Tampa. Now we have a 6-7 card hand going into Tampa.
Oh, that guy on the top though. Oh my god.
Oh my goodness. Sorry, Nathan. You got called out.
You got roasted. You're roasted.
Oh my lord. This is a good stream. Thank you guys so much for coming out and watching. Josh, thank you for being the guy who said, boys, we're streaming tonight.
Yep. We're drop everything. Ed, finish your dinner and get back right now.
I know. I had dinner plans and everything.
I was in the middle of a bone-in ribeye steak. I got the call to action, and I said,
I still have my dinner here. Okay, we are committed to bringing you guys.
I had to wax my head for this.
Yeah. We all paid a price. Some more than others.
Oh man.
Poll in chat when he said wax.
Yeah.
What did you interpret?
Okay, all right. Yeah.
Oh man.
Well,
that's an inside joke. Inside joke.
Thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. Does anybody have any last comments before we close off?
No, I'm looking forward to Rosetta. Room plates.
I'm so pumped.
I mean, come on. It's technically 4 room plates coming out, but it is what it is.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
When Nathan was told about, hey, the next set is named Rosetta, he was in the middle of a battle hardened, right? And
yeah, I was like, "There's no way."
There's no.
Like, it's such a good story.
Yeah. I was like,
Okay.
"There's no way," and then
I remember coming over, be like, "Look at this! Look at it! Look!" And he's like, "That's nice. Hold on 1 minute, man."
Yeah, let me win real quick. No.
And he started crying in the middle of the match. Tears of joy.
It's happening.
Yep. All right. Well, again, if you guys are going to be in Tampa, please come up and say hi to us. We will be there all weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So, all right. Well, we're going to wrap things up. This has been the Card Guys, the Chart Guys. Thank you so much for watching.
Everybody.
Take care.
Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.